Hello and welcome to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy,
And I'm Claire.
and we're here to talk about some of the disturbing things that go on in the world, past and present. We feel like not knowing doesn't mean the crazy doesn't exist.
So we're going to scar you with the knowing.
Enjoy.
So what do you got for us today, Claire?
So today we're headed to a place that is known for its pizza, had the world's first skyscraper, and inspired Gotham City.
New York?
Nope, Chicago.
You didn't give me any more guesses?
You weren't going to guess it. I knew you were going to guess New York because I would have guessed New York, but Chicago.
Well, actually, the pizza made me think like the deep dish.
Yeah, well, you didn't guess it. That's why I didn't linger on the pizza side more.
Tricky.
Okay, so we're going to dive into the life of Tillie Klimek, a woman whose blend of greed, cunning, and theatrical flair earned her the chilling title, the Black Widow of Chicago.
Oh.
We're going to be set in the gritty 20th century Chicago.
You're going way back when.
Mm-hmm. But we're going to rewind even farther back because Tillie was born Ottilie Gubrek in 1876 in Poland and would immigrate to the United States in 1896. Then she'd land in Chicago's Little Poland neighborhood. Now, after arriving, Tillie's going to face all sorts of challenges. Obviously, being an immigrant is hard because you're starting from scratch. She does come over with her parents, and I feel like everybody kind of clings together. You're going to support your whole family, like working. You're pulling all the things together. But she's going to face a number of challenges that is typical of immigrants at the time. Economic hardship, blah, blah, blah.
Asshole people.
Yeah, struggling with people not thrilled that they're there, trying to find stable employment, often having to work in the low-paying, labor-intensive jobs in the garment industry, until she gets hitched to Joseph Mikowski in 1892, and they'll be married a solid 20 years before Tillie, she'll tell her friends that she's been dreaming of his death.
Oh.
And
we dream different.
I thought it was kind of funny because she'll even say, like, the day he's gonna die.
You're not supposed to tell people that.
Well, she said it was in her dreams. Now, Joseph will die unexpectedly in 1914 at the age...
Unexpectedly.
Well, just because she had dreamed didn't mean it happened.
She's waiting on it.
She went her whole life not being psychic, and here she is going, I had a dream, you died. And I don't know why, but I'm going to give her a southern accent because I am not well-traveled.
I was about to say, wasn't she from Poland?
She was. Do a Polish accent. Go ahead. We'll wait.
You're going to keep waiting.
Well, anyway, poor Joseph is going to die at 56 from heart trouble.
Uh-huh. She did it.
Now, behind closed doors, there were plenty of whispers of foul play, but
yeah,
it was just whispers.
She announced that he was going to die.
Yeah, well, and then it's going to come out as people are doing their whispering that Tillie had told some of her friends how she dreamed of his death and named the day he would die, and he fucking did.
You know what I dream of? A big house. Put that one out there.
I read the whole, she told her friend she dreamed of her husband's death. I was like, I don't think that's how you're supposed to word it.
I don't think so either.
But I thought of when you sent me the emoji of the screwdriver. I know you can't leave that in there.
I sure will.
But,
there was one time my husband was driving me up a wall and I said I wanted to take a screwdriver to his temple. So I sent Claire a screwdriver emoji.
But she didn't.
Yeah, I didn't. He's still alive.
Just so we're clear, we are not recording from prison.
Or are we?
I don't think they'd have as good a Wi-Fi. Okay, well, back to Tillie. Now, despite that they were married over 20 plus years, Tillie is able to set aside her grief long enough to collect his life insurance.
Oh, I bet.
Now, just months after Joseph's death, Tillie wastes no time moving on, marrying Joseph Ruskowski, who was 43 at the time.
That was smart. She kept the names the same. She could never misspeak.
I laughed because I was like, maybe she had a tattoo she didn't want to explain, or maybe everybody was Joseph. I don't know. But I was like, man, I guess.
Well, that's like my mother-in-law. Her first husband and her second husband had the same first name.
I thought when people had types, it was more like appearance. attractiveness or qualities, not, can I just slide you right into this and then I don't have to change any of the decorations in the house?
She didn't want to get in trouble when she was in bed with him. So you know how I told you I was looking for my next case?
Mm-hmm.
I found one where this guy kills his girlfriend because she called him by her ex's name while they were doing it. So he murdered her. So maybe Tillie didn't want that to happen. So she picked somebody with the same first name.
Yeah.
My baloney has a first name.
I've never had that experience, so
Me either.
I was just sitting here trying to figure out, like, I feel like I'd be really pissed. Like, no amount of apologies.
No.
But anyway, so she gets hitched. It's just a few months after Joseph died that she marries Joseph Ruskowski II. And he isn't a second, it's just husband, toe.
Joseph Jr.
Yes.
Joseph the sequel.
Mm-hmm. Now, shortly after their wedding, Joseph's health begins to decline. Neighbors report Tillie speaking of visions again, in which she foresaw his demise. Now, these eerie predictions come true when poor Joseph died under mysterious circumstances just 6 months later at the poor age of 43.
Didn't they just get married?
They sure did, and I guess she was like...
She burned through that life insurance way too fast.
Or she was like, I don't like him. Regrets!
Next! Where's the next Joe? Joseph!
So it led many to start whispering about the possibilities of poison coursing through his veins, but we're gonna continue on because turns out gossip doesn't come at anything. Now, in the wake of Joseph II's death, people are gonna start kind of being afraid of Tillie because it's just like, if she is predicting deaths and doing all that, I don't want to talk to her because I don't want her to predict my death. I'd rather not know. So they're going to start like crossing the street to avoid her. Because if that's the case, like I said, they don't want to know their death date. But if it's not, they don't want to be your next victim either. So they're not taking any chances. But I feel like that's more of the ladies because Tillie's going to get married again to Frank Kupchak, who is 35 at the time. If you're not good at the math that... She's not in her 30s anymore, so she married herself a younger feller.
The original cougar. The cougar OG.
And unlike her previous husbands, Frank is aware of the suspicious deaths around Tillie, and poor Frank is just confident in his good health.
He's confident in his different name.
He's like, I'm not a Joseph.
Yeah.
I think he was like overly cocky and was probably like, I'm not worried about this little lady. She's just a woman. And I'm healthy as a horse.
For now.
Well, he's real confident in his health, so he dismisses her ominous premonitions, believing that he was immune to her supposed visions of his dark fate. Now, Frank will even scoff at her claims, telling her that he's not afraid of death. I'm vigorous, I'm strong, I'll be fine. However, his bravado would prove to be tragically misplaced. Her theatrics escalate as she didn't just predict his death. Well, she would taunt him saying things like, it won't be long now, while knitting a mourning bonnet at his bedside.
Oh my gosh.
I read that. Like, she'd even say some weird shit of, like, he's only got a few more inches left. Like, when she's done with this bonnet, he's dead. I'd be like, I think you just ran out of yarn and we don't have money for that.
Right? This magically came undone. I don't know that you're allowed to be prepared for the funeral while they're still alive.
Well, I think it'd be fucked up if I was going to bed and Dave's just, like, preparing his funeral clothes. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, you don't have much time left, so I'm just getting a jump on things.
You only got about 2 inches left.
Well, she'll even want to set money aside for his coffin because she's been down this road before, so she'd rather get things prepared. And he was still all like I'm not worried, until he died.
Yeah. Well, who could have seen that one coming? Joe and Joe the sequel.
I feel like, you ever see those movies where they've got like the ghosts in the background of like,
don't do it.
Yeah, like, I don't see how he doesn't see this coming. She's got her funeral bonnet, but... He dies shortly after she finishes the last stitch on that sucker. And I guess it was a quick funeral because his coffin was probably next to him. She just rolled him into it. Like, I've got to pick up aisle 3.
Hey, she just tucked him in that night in. She's like, just lay here tonight. This is where you need to be. This will be your final resting place.
Well, if you know somebody's two previous spouses keeled over, and this one's telling you you're going to be dying soon, and here's your coffin, and I'm going to make me a funeral hat.
Yeah.
I feel like you take it serious, but for whatever reason...
She's a woman.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I feel like that is a huge factor in this, of people not really thinking the ladies can be masterminds anything.
What does she look like? She's pulling the younger feller, so...
1920s Polish lady.
That doesn't help me.
We don't know her party tricks, or maybe these are the people who are, like... I feel like Frank was I feel like he wanted to prove something by, like, he wasn't a scared of her. He's gonna marry her and walk around town and do the whole is what I feel like, because he was well aware of all of the things. And you would think it would end with that, but Tillie's gonna find herself a fourth and final husband.
Oh my gosh.
Joseph Klimek. He's 42 when they get hitched in 1921. Just before he becomes ill, Joseph had updated his will to leave everything to Tillie. The ink is barely dry when he starts feeling sick, raising suspicions about the motives. Now, Joseph's family, they knew about Tillie and had opposed their marriage from the very beginning, and their asses were ready. So the second he becomes ill, they rush him to have medical treatment. And
that is not what I pictured her to look like, by the way. You made me Google her.
But they rush him to seek medical care, desperate to save him from what they suspected as a sinister fate. Medical examinations uncover alarming levels of arsenic in his body, a substance that was poison in its purest form. Silent, deadly, and insidious. I specifically wrote in there silent but deadly, waiting for you to be like...
I did get darty-eyed.
I wrote, like, it's the original silent but deadly.
I mean, it seemed inappropriate to make a fart joke when you're talking about him being murdered, but it did make the childish version of me go,
I think somewhere in time that whole silent but deadly changed drastically in meaning.
I think it meant more for, like, carbon monoxide, like gas, like actual gas.
That makes more sense.
Is it silent and deadly?
Well, who knew there were another silent but deadly? However, Joseph doesn't die. After receiving treatment with, like, the medical team working diligently to detoxify his system, he emerges from his crisis shaken
but not stirred,
but alive. I feel like his family was probably like, yeah, we could have told you this wasn't going to end well. How many husbands do you need to see her plant before anybody else is like, this probably isn't right?
I've never heard anybody refer to burying someone as planting them.
Oh, what's the word?
I don't know. I just never heard it before.
Oh, well, jot that down. August 2025. Now, mind you, with Joseph being poisoned with arsenic is going to really shake things up and be alarming. And Tillie's going to face heightened scrutiny as her role in his illness becomes the focal point of the investigation into her past. The hospital's alarming findings prompt an investigation, leading authorities to exhume the bodies of Tillie's husbands.
Uh-oh.
Each autopsy's gonna reveal the same shocking truth. High levels of arsenic poisoning caused their death. Now, the chilling realization that Tillie had turned her spouses into unwitting victims of her greed sent shockwaves through the community. It became evident that this widow was not just a widow, she's a fucking predator. Now, as the investigation deepens, disturbing patterns start to emerge. Several of Tillie's relatives, even a family pet, had succumbed to mysterious illnesses when they'd been around Tillie or eaten some of her food.
Why? Why? If you know this lady's husbands are magically disappearing off the face of the planet in death, do you eat food that she has prepared?
Right.
All those whispers. Sorry, if you became the Black Widow of husbands, I would not step foot in your house, nor would I consume anything that you prepared.
Right. I agree. But evidently, if you cross Tillie, she'd just sneak a little arsenic in your shit. Including the dog. I guess he peed on her shoe or something.
No, somebody fed their food to the dog.
Oh, they were probably like, this tastes like shit. Give it to Spike. Well, When they're doing their investigation, they uncover all that and are suspicious in as many as 20 lives that keeled over around Tillie.
Wow.
Now, Tillie's trial is going to begin in March 1923 and quickly going to become a sensation in which the news is going to dub her the Black Widow or the Poison Widow, and reporters can't resist retelling the stories of the eerie deaths around her. Neighbors are going to testify about her morbid visions, one recalling Tillie confidently announcing Frank's death date because the spirits told her. Another's going to describe the black mourning bonnet she knitted while he was still alive. And the most damning testimony is going to come from her husband that didn't die, Joseph the Fourth. The one man who had lived to tell the tale would tell his tale. On the stand, Joseph described how his health began failing pretty much right after they got married, and the will was made final. It was as if my strength was leaking away, he told the jury. He said Tillie served him soups and stews that tasted normal, but tests later revealed that they contained arsenic in lethal doses. Now, Joseph also recounted her chilling remarks while he was bedridden. She allegedly told him he won't be needing his winter clothes this year, and laughed.
This lady's nuts.
It's not nice. You already know you're going to kill the man. You're going to laugh that you're not going to need your winter clothes. Strike that from the budget.
She's got problems.
And apparently when a neighbor would inquire, like during this bedridden time, about how he's doing, she chuckles and doesn't answer. So that neighbor was like, ooh. She should probably kept those as inside thoughts.
There seems to be a problem with that.
Now, doctors confirmed Joseph had most likely been poisoned, likely over several weeks. And I think when we've done before, that's how people do the arsenic poisoning, just slowly. It's a slow decline because it just builds up in your system until you're dead.
Right, and people think that they're just not feeling well, so they don't think anything of it. Because they don't feel awful, but they don't feel great.
Yeah. They're feeling sleepy and weak until they're bedridden and just keep going down the shitter. They confirmed it was likely over several weeks that he was being poisoned until his family had intervened and really saved his life. His survival and the direct link between Tillie's cooking and his illness gave the prosecution living proof of her methods. And not to mention the toxicology evidence combined with testimonies of neighbors and Joseph himself paint a pretty damning picture. And the jury needed very little convincing because they're going to waste no time delivering a guilty verdict, sentencing Tillie to life in prison, the harshest punishment ever handed to a woman in Cook County at that time.
Well, she's just lucky, I guess.
Now, behind bars, she remained a figure of intrigue, appealing her conviction multiple times, yet she would never taste freedom again. Tillie died on November 20th, 1936. In prison at the age of 60, leaving behind a legacy of horror.
The lady's crazy. And she's really got a thing for Joseph's.
Yeah. Now, the thing that was kind of interesting is that, and I know I didn't dig too much into it, but like when they were looking at family members, her cousin had married into a family, and some of those people keeled over, and I don't know if it was like a family gathering and somebody ate the wrong stuff. Like, that's what you get for browsing in somebody's pantry, but...
Remind me the next time we're at your house not to our house for a snack. God.
But no.
That's what you get.
So her cousin's arrested for a little bit, and she spends like a year in jail before she's acquitted because they weren't sure if since some of her in-laws were murdered or died suspiciously, and it turns out that, like, she didn't have anything to do with it, so she'd spend a year in jail before being released because she didn't do anything with Tillie. But I'd be so upset if you poisoned people and then I went to jail for a year, because I feel like even after a year coming back, I don't feel like Dave would eat any food.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's funny to read stuff about her because these times it was like it marked people being open to, like, these women folk can deviate plans. They're not as stupid as we thought.
I don't know what point women officially became suspects in murders, but it's
being criminal. Well, they didn't think we had the capacity. Probably around when we got the vote.
No, I don't know at what point men decided, you know what, maybe we should look at these here little old ladies. But there's too many times that we've done cases where it's like, because the killer is a woman, the men are like, she didn't do it.
Yeah, she couldn't have. Well, and that's what makes me curious. I mean, obviously the motivation was money, but it makes me curious if, like, so she was married to her first husband for 20 plus years. It couldn't have been too bad, but was it like they were facing the poorhouse kind of thing of like, she already struggled coming there and struggled for what they had, and then what changed? She just magically had the idea. And I feel like it probably would have been less suspicious if she didn't say stuff to people. I mean, like, if he would have just dropped dead in his 50s, I don't think it would have been suspicious considering the hard life they both were having.
Yeah. But her bragging about
Her having premonitions.
dreaming of his, which, by the way, if you didn't tell Dave about this case.
No, so last night he asked me, he's like, because I told him we were going to record this morning, so if he wanted to sleep in, he could have at it. But I told him we were going to record, and he's like, who's doing the storytelling? And I was like, me. And he was like, what's it on? And I was like, a lady who poisons her husbands. He did like a darty-eyed thing. Like, I didn't tell him anymore. I just, like, night-night.
Sweet James, did you drink your hot chocolate?
Just going to randomly check his pulse in the night just to freak him out.
Oh, you're still awake? Close your eyes.
Just check in. Write down his respirations.
If I told Jason that I dreamed of his death, he's going to look at me like I've lost my damn mind. That's supposed to be called a nightmare, not a dream of your death.
Well, she was pretending to suddenly have psychic abilities in her 30s, 40s.
Turns out if she just would have kept her trap shut and not offed all the Josephs in her town and a Frank, that she probably would have got away with it.
Yeah.
Which is really disturbing if you stop and think about how many women probably got away with murdering a husband or two.
Yeah. If she would have stopped after the first one, she'd have been fine, but she probably had the difficulties of nobody wants to listen or negotiate with the little lady. Where's your husband?
She's just proud of herself because her husband probably told her she couldn't do something, and she's like, watch what I can do.
Yeah, she let it go to her head with the whole pissed her off. Yeah, well, here's your tea. You want some soup? You want seconds? Absolutely, I'll get that for you.
Yep.
So I feel like power went to her head. And especially, I mean, maybe even she enjoyed a little bit of the fear of people in the community. Because when you think about, like, what would be the point in taunting somebody of, like, it won't be long now? But, like,
I think it was less about taunting and more she's telling it to herself. You know how, like, people can hype themselves up?
Yeah, like, you only have to make it a little while longer.
Yeah, it was more of a...
Okay, well, what about poor, was it Joseph?
I feel like you could pretty much just say Joseph, and it covers 3 of the 4.
Yeah, I mean, Joseph the 4th. Like, doing the whole, you're not going to need your winter clothes this year, is a little sick. Like, yeah,
that's... And you know what? He should have left.
Well, he was bedridden.
Well...
She's the caretaker that, like... It's a good thing his family, and I feel like, again, they weren't very sympathetic to his woes.
No.
Because they told him not to marry her. He married her anyway. Just after he writes in the will for all of his shit to go to her, that he becomes sick. Well, gee, it's not like we don't have a pattern of this. You've heard what people are saying around town. So I am curious, what was she doing that all these fellers were, like, swoony and disregarding their harm,
their safety?
Yeah, whatever. You know what I meant. What'd I tell you about correcting me?
She's doing anal.
What?
That shut you up.
Yeah, I did.
Like, you said, what is she doing? That these fellers are all forgetting about their safety. She's doing something to the other ladies. Either she's really good at the oral or she's taking it in the back door.
Or they were.
Oh.
She was the original Pegger.
We'll call her Peggy instead of Tillie.
Tillie Peg.
It took a weird turn.
Well, I could say it so many times in a row, it's not funny. I don't know how you can hear about somebody that potentially caused harm to several spouses before and still get hitched.
Yeah.
There were also like, so out of those 20 people, some of them were relatives, some of them were the dog, some of them her husbands. That there was supposedly some feller who jilted her, and he died too. But so I guess you didn't even have to get married. That if you crossed Tillie, you were done for.
She just didn't stand to inherit money and the things unless she married them.
Well, it made me curious if there was also the aspect of, because it was like in an immigrant area, that they didn't really care. Like authorities, like they're not really, whatever. They're killing each other. Who cares?
Yeah, it's sad. Probably true.
Because they're not the only ones struggling to survive, and you've got to figure the bitter Americans in that. I mean, there's no way to slice that one of they don't care. Full well somebody during this was just like, it's just another Polish person. Not saying that's my views, but I bet you that's exactly what it's just like. Who cares if she killed her husband? There was somebody lazy in this.
And you figure it's during the Great Depression, so...
The 20s?
Yeah.
It wasn't the Great Depression.
It was like 1920 something.
29 to 41.
And when is...
Because it was the start of World War II that put everybody back to work.
And when is your case?
Her trial starts in 1923.
Oh.
But I feel like it's still, they're struggling because it's the 20s, and I don't know, it could be less about immigrants dying and more of nobody wants to investigate a lady because they don't have the capacity for developing plans like that. They can only think of one singular thought at a time, not a web of them.
They can't think of doing any crimes. They're supposed to be thinking of what they're making for dinner.
Yeah.
Dinner is the number one priority. And the laundry in.
I feel like if you did arsenic in the clothes, it just caused skin issues.
Well, that's why they didn't suspect the ladies, though. It's because they were doing all the other things.
Yeah. They learned then, though.
Did they?
I feel like they did when they were like, whoa, you mean to tell me how many other people have just died? Like, mysteriously. And by mysterious, it's like, Tillie was around and suddenly I didn't feel so well.
I wonder how many people it took before police collectively started going, you know what? Maybe it was her.
No, it was Joseph. If Joseph would have Joseph the Fourth, if he would have actually died, I don't think they would have investigated her. But because they had a living, breathing victim to be like, I was fine, then I married Tillie, started to not feel well after I changed my will, and the family doing the whole, we told you not to get married to her. Like, that whole suspicion, the fact that the hospital has the evidence that he had been poisoned is what kicked this all off. But you figure if he would have died and the family would have just wrote him off as like, you made a poor decision, fuck you, we don't want anything to do with Tillie, that he could have died and just been one more on her belt. I don't know at what point she would have had a hard time finding another husband, but I feel like she was getting near the end. But that's really all I ask at.
I was trying to see. Remember they used to use arsenic and all kinds of other things that aren't supposed to be put in things.
Like makeup.
Yeah, and makeup and cough syrup and stuff like that. But it was a whole century before. Anyway, thanks for that.
Yeah. So, everybody else, let us know what you think about Tillie.
If you're planning to poison people, don't go walk around talking about...
that you're going to poison them on this day, officially.
Yeah.
This will be their dying day. I feel like on the ones that, like, missed the date, it was like, she didn't give him enough.
She missed.
Yeah.
He gave it to the dog.
Yeah. That was probably practice.
No, I think somebody...
Well, or like you said, somebody gave the food.
Yeah.
I don't know, though, because you figure if you're, like, if it's a struggling kind of area, because I picture an overpopulated, more people living in one place that really should be, so people already on top of themselves. I'm like, unless she was just a real bad cook, that I would think that you would eat your food. But I think poverty was her motivator. She didn't want to do that no more. She's tired of hard work.
So you said her first husband, they exhumed him or no?
Yeah.
Okay. And it was confirmed he was poisoned?
Yep.
I was going to say, because maybe if it would have been better for her... It'd be a completely different story. Forget it. I was going to say it would have been better if her first husband died of natural causes. She got that life insurance money and was like, this is what it's like to be able to eat real food. And then lined them all up after that. But I guess after 20 years of marriage, you know what? 20 years of marriage.
That's why I said it made me think of you with she started dreaming of her husband's death. And I was like, It's you got to call those visions, ma'am.
For those that don't know, my husband and I are working on year 19.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! Let me go make him breakfast.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Homicide Hobbies. If we made you laugh, if we made you cry, or if we mindfucked you for the day, then we thank you for listening. Please write a review on whatever you're listening to us on. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers. We're freaking awesome. And join us next week for another episode of Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy.
And I'm Claire.
That's all we've got.